Okay, Meridian, we are back. We just finished chapter 25. We are back here with chapter 26. I am lucky enough to have two friends laying right here next to me, so if you see any movement or if I get interrupted in any way, I apologize, but my dogs are cuddled up right next to me right now. So in chapter 25, Iris and her grandmother took a plane and they just boarded the cruise ship. So we are excited to see what is happening next. Chapter 26, here we go. I hadn't seen any kids on the ship, which wasn't a surprise since school was still going on. But that evening, at the welcome aboard party, a girl across the pool waved to me. She looked about my age and had straight black hair, light brown skin, and the kind of glasses I'd wear if I needed them. Black frames that made you look smart. I waved back. It seemed like she might come talk to me. I was there for Blue 55, but I couldn't get to him any faster than the ship would go. Maybe it'd be nice to have someone else to talk to while I was on board. Most passengers looked older than Grandma. Grandma tapped my shoulder. Dinner? She downed the last of her drink, then stuck the paper umbrella behind her ear. I nodded and looked back at the girl, then waved again as we left the deck. I'd look for her later. Each table in the dining room was covered with a white cloth and had a silver vase of flowers. Some people sat at the big round tables, others sat at booths or tables for four. Grandma and I had our own table by a window. The waiter, Constantine, Romania, unfurled the cloth napkins and placed them in our laps. It was the nicest restaurant I'd ever been to. When I opened the menu, I got really worried. There aren't any prices, I said to Grandma. Get whatever you want, she answered. It's all included in the price of the cruise. Of course, it seems so much like a real restaurant that I'd forgotten we were on a ship. It's okay, she added. She could probably tell I was embarrassed. At some restaurants on board, you do pay at the ends, but not in the dining rooms and the buffet. She looked over the menu and said, "Let's get two different things and share." When Constantine returned with a basket of rolls and a butter dish, Grandma told him she'd like the tilapia with rice and steamed vegetables. She signed at the same time she was talking to him so I'd know what she was ordering. Then Constantine turned to me and I pointed to the salmon with mashed potatoes. He said something else, then flipped the menu over when I didn't understand him. The dessert page. Everything looked so good, even the things I never heard of. Grandma signed, "I'll get the cheesecake. Which one do you want?" I wanted to say one of each, but decided on the creme brulee. Not sure what it is, but I'll find out. Grandma laughed, and she said, "Good choice," as I pointed out to Constantine. It was nice to see Grandma laugh. I didn't expect her to ever stop missing Grandpa, but maybe this trip would help her to get back to her normal self again. Ever since we started the planning, it seemed like that drizzly November and her was looking brighter. The water outside the window looked flat and smooth except for the white-capped wake the ship was making itself as it sped through the ocean. Grandma touched my shoulder and signed, "Look!" I turned to see what had caught her attention. The dark gray triangle sticking out of the water reminded me of sharks' fins. But then the animals leaped in the arches out of the water together, 5 of them diving down into the waves and jumping back up again. Dolphins! Grandma clapped her hands. Yes! Looks like they're racing the boat. The pod of dolphins jumped and dived together next to the ship. It felt like a good sign seeing them as our journey started. I wonder if Grandma wished that Grandpa were there, watching the dolphins with her. They were supposed to take this cruise together. I wanted to ask her about him, but thinking of him might make her sad. She probably thought about him all the time, though, so maybe it wouldn't hurt to mention him. "What was your favorite cruise?" I asked her after Constantine brought our plates. She handed me a fork full of tilapia. Hard to choose. I liked them all. After so much time, I can't remember which beach was which. But my favorite memory was when we found the karaoke bar. Really? Of all the entertainment they'd seen on their travels, watching people sing at a karaoke machine couldn't have been the most interesting. Yes, I think it was on our cruise to Jamaica. We were wandering the ship at night and felt loud music coming from one of the bars. Grandma covered her ear like she had when she heard the sound of the foghorn. Then both hands bounced and fluttered in front of her, showing me how the thumping bass of the music trembled the floor. The Calypso, the bar was called. We stopped in to get a drink and to see what was going on. That was the first time we saw a karaoke machine. We sat and watched for a few minutes and then put our names on the list to take a turn ourselves. You and Grandpa at the karaoke machine? Yes, the words to the songs were right there on the screen. That was really for the people who were singing, but it was allowed for us to enjoy the lyrics too instead of just watching people sing. So what did you do when it was your turn? We signed one of our favorite songs. When we flipped through the big book of all the songs the club could play, we found one from a musical we had interpreted in college. And you got up and you did the song together? As hard as I tried, I couldn't imagine my grandparents standing in front of a crowd in a karaoke bar. We did, and Grandpa got the crowd to sing along as we signed the lyrics. He was always good at bringing other people in. You're like him in that way, able to communicate with people you don't know. I'm always in my own head too much and not knowing what to say to other people. Grandma must have been thinking about someone else. I didn't ask her what she meant because she looked so happy talking about Grandpa. I didn't want to interrupt the memory. And when the song was over, we got a standing ovation. We started to go back to our table, but the next couple asked if we would sign while they sang. We kept it going the rest of the night. We didn't know many of the songs, but we did what we could on the spot with the lyrics in front of us. She shrugged. And so what if we did mess up? No one would know. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't heard that story before. I have to ask Mom about it when I got home. Maybe she didn't know all of it either. I found myself wondering what my parents were thinking. After all the planning I'd done, I was there on the ship right where I was supposed to be. At the same time, I wanted to be at home with my family at the dinner table, even if I didn't always catch everything they talked about. They must have been worried about us by now, or angry. They must be both. But if I called to tell them we were okay, I'd end up explaining more than I wanted to. Let the cat out of the bag was another expression I never understood. What does that have to do with telling a secret? And why would a cat be out of a bag anyway? I didn't realize I was smiling until Grandma brushed 2 fingertips across the end of her nose and then shrugged to ask, "What's so funny?" "Just thinking about Dad," I answered. "Some of the things he says. Like when he says, 'Let's hit the road,' and looks like he's punching a street." "Yeah, that. When Dad showed me that humpback whale record he used to listen to, I should have shown him the website with all the different whale songs. Maybe he'd like to hear them again. I wondered when he'd stop listening to them." Grandma and I were both too full to finish our dinners, but we magically found more room when Constantine set our desserts in front of us. I still wasn't sure what creme brulee was made of, other than sugar and some sort of cream. Whatever it was my new favorite food. When Constantine returned to clear our plates, he showed me a note that read, "How do you sign beautiful?" It's a little hard for a new person to sign, but he practiced it a couple of times and did okay. As we got up to leave, he signed to Grandma, "Goodbye, beautiful." I couldn't believe it. Grandma was actually blushing. When we got back to the room, the clear plastic holder next to our door held 2 packets. I gave one to Grandma and flipped through the other as I sat on the edge of the bed. I waved to get Grandma's attention, then we looked up and said, "What do you want to do tomorrow?" She turned to the page of the schedule and said, "I don't know. Try my luck at the casino, maybe?" One thing caught my eye as I scanned the next day's events. An Alaskan wildlife presentation by Sura Kalubak, the naturalist aboard the ship. Alaskan wildlife had to include whales. It had been a few days before we got to the sanctuary, but until then I could learn more about Blue 55. Maybe Sura knew about him. Since Grandma didn't pay for Wi-Fi access, I wouldn't be able to check online to see where he was while we were at sea. I'd feel better if at least I knew which way to look. And that's the end of chapter 26. Chapter 27. He called out to anyone, to no one, then stopped to listen. Noises filled the sea around him. Dolphins chattered as they leaped in arcs above the surface. Waves swelled and crashed. Water bubbles popped when a school of fish scrambled away. The low songs of whales traveled through the ocean, a sea full of sounds with none for him. He reached for those songs he couldn't sing, trying to grab a call when a wave of sound trembled the water. If only he could catch it. He'd keep it with him until the sound became a part of him. Then he would answer back and make the tremor of his song float through the water like theirs, and they would know him and answer. Was there anything out in the ocean like himself? He kept calling just in case someone was there. And that's the end of chapter 27. So I asked, what was the difference between chapter 26 and 27? How do you know that that was a different person that was speaking? Because that was the whale and his voice. So what did you notice, and how could you tell that that was the difference between the two? So I'm going to stop there, and then we will come back and we will get started on chapter 28. I hope you are enjoying this, and I can't wait to talk to you again.